I feel like I've had too much caffeine.
Oh,
I feel like I'm
okay.
like unwell. I'm sorry. Okay.
Oops.
Guys. Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome back to And Soph. You've made it for part 2. If you haven't watched part 1 with Josh, make sure that you go listen. Thank you, Josh, again for being on the
Yeah,
second podcast
absolutely.
episode.
No, sir, I'm excited to be here.
Yay. I'm excited to get into
Part
this
1 was a
next
lot of
conversation.
fun.
It was.
So I had a lot of fun. So
It was.
if you guys haven't watched it yet, go watch that first.
Yeah, go watch that first so you're caught up. If you guys don't know who Josh is also creative and he has multiple interests and passions that he's really talented at, and one of them happens to be graphic design.
Yes.
He's also designed some really cool clothes that I have been like, I want that. The classic imperfect hoodies, and then also Sunday Best, which he is currently building. It centers a lot around faith and just showing up as your best self on the outside, but also on the inside too, of your character and the way you treat people, which is really great. So we got to get into that in part 1. Now we are just going to be getting a little more into mental health, because I think I talk about mental health with a lot of the women that I have on here, and I don't really have like a lot of like male guests that often. So I really wanted to like hear more about like your mind when it comes to mental health, and just like men's mental health is also important too, and sometimes it's not talked about enough. Really excited to get into that and to also just talk about how that ties in with our faith and our creativity. So make sure that you stick around. How often do you feel like you talk about like the subject of mental health with like your peers? Is this something that you do like normally, or is this something that doesn't come up as much for you, or like in the middle?
Like I talk about my mental health with like my close friends.
Yeah.
I try to talk about that pretty often. But as far as like just the topic of mental health and kind of, I don't know, how I view it and stuff like that, like not super often. So
Yeah.
we'll see what I have to add here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hopefully this will be helpful too, to talk about different things, because I know it can tie into a lot.
Absolutely. I definitely think that there will be some good things to share, because there's some stuff that I've been learning that I think that, not that I would not have learned before or I couldn't have learned before, but just some stuff that I feel like God's been kind of guiding me towards. That's been really just honestly like amazing.
And the first question I had was actually about finding balance, which is something I think I have a lot of conversations about. And when you were like filling out the Google form, I saw you wrote that down. I know that was from so long ago, but
Yeah.
I was like, dang, like I definitely like relate with that, of trying to find that balance of resting, working, and then finding like time to put that into your passions. And it's even more complicated when it's like your work is not your passion, or your direct, like your full-time job is not what your business is, or like different things like that. So I was wondering what we both like, or why we feel like it's especially hard to balance those things like in our 20s, like in this stage of our life.
For a very long time, even like kind of, before my 20s, I loved just doing different things and having different like avenues of creativity, of work, of rest even. And so like there's different things I'm like, oh, I'm constantly jumping from thing to thing. And I think what's been hard now is like prioritizing certain things and being like, this is kind of what I want to do, or this is how I want to spend my time. Like even like recently, especially like having a full-time job now, it's like I'll get home from work and I'll be like, all right, I have this amount of time before I need to go to bed and then get up for work the next day. How do I want to spend this time? And there's like certain things where it's like, oh, I really want to like do this, I really want to do that. Sometimes like, oh, I really want to like make a song. But then I'm like, but every time I try to make a song, I sit at the computer for like an hour and I like hit a block and I can't do anything. And I'm like, I don't want to spend an hour not knowing what to do. So I'm just not going to do it. Balancing multiple like jobs, and like I have my full-time job, but I also have, my it's like technically contract, but like my kind of part-time job doing content. And then I am constantly doing like a bunch of freelance work for different like companies, different creators and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's like sometimes I get home from work and I do more work,
Yeah.
and then that can get really draining. So I feel like having intentional rest is important, but I heard that like rest is not like restful unless it's intentional. And that can look like different things for different people, but I think that's something I try to keep in mind, where it's like, hey, this is my time of rest. Like, I'm not going to think about these things, not because like I just want to run away from them, but because if I have intentional rest, I'll be able to tackle those things like in a better mindset or in a better mood. Even sometimes your rest and your work can overlap. Like sometimes rest for me is just like, oh, I want to like work on a shirt design for myself, not for a client, not for my job, not for anything else. But like I just kind of had this idea, and like I kind of want to just kind of, execute it and stuff like that. And then sometimes it's like needing to go outside and not look at a screen, going on a walk, or literally like, going to the park or something like, and I think there's moments where that stuff like just ends up working out, and it feels like God's like kind of like, hey, go outside. Like where it's like it just so happened that like I had to wait for something and I was outside, and God's like, yeah, I need you to just be here for like an hour. Just sit here and just be still.
It's something that I'm like getting used to, like reminding myself, and I think it's good to also like remind myself I want to like connect with God too. I feel like my times aren't always like like they look different every day.
Yeah,
I think that's
for
something
sure.
that I've unlearned with that. Like the quiet times thing, like we both grew up in church, and we used the term like quiet time as a way to describe like your time with God, but it would usually be like in the mornings,
Yeah, like an hour in
like
the morning.
6 a.m.
Yeah.
rise and shine and like pop open that Bible. It would kind of look like like just one way growing up, and it's like if you didn't do it every day, you're kind of like struggling spiritually.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I understand the importance of still like that God is the center of my life, and everything else is just kind of like built around that. It's not like trying to squeeze God into the schedule. And I still struggle with that sometimes because I'm like, oh shoot, sorry, like I'm just going, and I'm forgetting like God is the only reason why my car turned on today to go see my friends, or like why I even know Alexis, who owns like this podcast studio, and that this could work. So
Thank you, Alexis.
thank you, Alexis. Shout out, Alexis. And yeah, so sometimes it's like I have to ground myself and remember those things. And when I'm like prioritizing my time with God too, whether that's just like walks around my neighborhood praying, that's been really nice. Sometimes that is the peak of the time where I really get to just talk to God with no distractions. And there's other times where I'll read the Bible and it'll go with like this book that somebody wrote that is something that I really needed to hear that day, that I was almost going to be like, I don't feel like reading this, you know? So sometimes I feel like it's moments like that, and it happens more organically. It's not possible to find the perfect balance with all those things, and that's okay. We're human.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think, like you said, intentionality with that, I think, is really important and will help us to find some sort of like rhythm and discover more of like what's truly like important to us at the end of the day.
Walking with God, it's having a relationship with him. And I've like tried to really take that in and be like, because again, growing up in church, there's a certain way that you learn about it, and you're kind of like, okay, like I need to have I need to read my Bible every morning, I need to pray every day, and things like that. And it becomes this thing where it's like, it feels like that is the extent of your relationship, is like it feels kind of transactional, where it's like, oh, like reading the Bible is God talking to us, and us praying to him is like us talking to him. And like it feels like that becomes the routine. And there's times where it's like, oh, I really want to call Ronnie, and like I'm like, I just want to talk to him. And or it's like, hey, I really want to call my girlfriend, I want to tell her about my day, and like things like that. It's like, okay, applying that to my relationship with God, and it's like, how often am I being like, oh, I can't wait to tell God about this. Yes, he already knows. Yes, he was like there when it happened, but like being intentional about like, hey, this is kind of what I want. Yeah, the intentionality of like I want to be in a place where I can just be still, be in a park, be like watch the sunset, whatever.
Mhm.
It softens my heart for sure. And I think that's a big theme, or like a big thing that I've been kind of like praying through and telling myself, was that my heart can get hard very easily,
Mhm.
and I can very easily be in places where I'm like, oh man, I just don't really feel like reading my Bible. I don't really feel like, and that's not necessarily like, okay, that means I'm in a bad place or whatever, but
Yeah.
like there's some sort of blockage. There's some sort of like God's not like in my heart, and like my heart's hardened by something. Is it stress? Is it anxiety? Is it like anger? Is it
Mhm.
frustration? Like there's times where I'm like really frustrated with kind of how things are going right now.
Yeah.
And I've been challenged to be like, okay, we'll tell God. And it's like, I'm not gonna tell God I'm frustrated at him. It's
Mhm.
like David told God that he was frustrated at him in the Psalms all the time. And
Mhm.
David questioned like, where is God and stuff like that. And so there's still times that obviously it's like, oh man, like the last thing I want to do is to pray about something that I'm really stressed about, because
Yeah.
I'd rather just go and try to fix it. God is on my side and he wants to be like walking with me, and like
Yeah.
I can't just go off and do my own thing even though I really want to. And so
Yeah.
I think that's been, I don't know, I'm getting more accustomed to it now. It's funny because a couple of years ago, there was like an older brother that like was like, hey, I want to just have a couple of guys over. We're just gonna have some like, have some dinner together and just hang
Mhm.
out. And he was just kind of like, hey, like just, you guys are people in my church that, you
Mhm.
know I enjoy like talking to and stuff like that, but we don't really have like that deep of relationship. And he was like, I
Mhm.
just wanted to kind of like get to know you guys more.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. And so that's how it started. And then like years later, we meet every Sunday and we
Mhm.
just talk about like how life is going. And
Mhm.
like many of us have been through big life changes,
Yeah.
big like events, disappointments. Like there's like some crazy lore in that, like within that
Yes.
group.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy because now I look at it and they are the people that I'll go to be like, hey, I'm gonna be completely transparent. It's like crazy to me now because I look at it and I'm like, how have I just not had a support system like this my whole life? And then now I'm pursuing some. There's a lot of butterflies. It's really nice. Sorry, I keep seeing them. Um,
Yeah.
someone will share like, man, like I just feel so ashamed, or
Yeah.
I feel this heaviness, and like someone will just say like, okay, who told you that?
Mm.
Right? Like
Yeah.
like okay, did you get that from the Bible? Did you get
Mhm.
that from like God's word? Or are you just hearing this voice in your head like that you
Mhm.
should be ashamed, or that you should feel like you're not where you need to be, or you should feel like you're behind or whatever? Like
Yeah.
all those things, like who told you that?
Right.
You know?
It can be hard to open up to people about how I'm really doing.
Yeah,
So I really respect
absolutely.
you for doing that. And just like kind
Thanks.
of like what we were talking about before of how it is hard, I think, sometimes to feel like you can be respected in being vulnerable, like with your emotions. But I'm glad you feel safe to do that, and that you're not just relying on just yourself to
Yeah.
be able to get to just keep going like in your faith, and that you have people that you trust, and that it
Mhm.
feels genuine and not like
Yeah,
forced and everything. And
absolutely.
when men sometimes like express vulnerable emotions or like sensitive emotions, it's kind of
Mhm.
like you're seen as having like a weak masculinity. Like if you
Mhm.
cry, that's something I talk about a lot. Like there's a lot of men that I've talked to where they've told me that they cry like once a year, or they can't
Yeah,
remember the
sure,
last
sure,
time they
sure.
cried.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I grew up very sensitive and I
Yeah.
used to cry a lot, and
Mhm.
I used to get like made fun of and like teased because of that. Like
Mhm.
I remember like I think there was like a teen camp that I was like crying, and then we went to back to our cabin, and then like we're like, let's talk about it, and they're like, Josh was crying. I was like, no, I wasn't. Like
Oh.
it was like, okay, like this is the space that you're like, oh yeah, like it makes sense to cry because it's like church camp, and
Yeah.
there it's like they quite honestly like the lesson and the music, it is all like made to kind of put you in this emotional state to be like, hey,
Exactly.
this is like like
Yeah.
it can sound like super engineered, and I
Yeah.
think it is. That's just
Yeah.
kind of the nature of it.
Mhm.
But it's also like, okay, like we're putting you in a place where you can like just let go of the things that you have like in your heart or the things that you're holding on to and stuff like that. I actually feel like we're trying to swing it the other way,
Mm-hmm.
where now it's like I actually don't have any problem talking about like emotions,
Mm-hmm.
but I can talk like a lot about kind of some surface level emotions, but I will not talk about like the deep ones.
Mm.
It kind of gives the front that I'm like being like in touch with my emotions, but
Right.
they're like, what is really going on? Me and Ronnie will call each other, and I'm like, dude, I know this isn't right, but this is exactly what I'm feeling right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah.
And I think that's been super healing and super just encouraging to my soul, is just like being able to just like let that out. I feel like I get a lot of encouragement from people.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times, I don't know if you're like this, but so many
Yeah.
times I feel like, oh, but like you only know like so much of me. Like I look up to people who lead families, and I'm like, that is the type of man I want to be one day.
Mm-hmm.
And that means addressing like the emotions, that means
Mm-hmm.
addressing like some of these things, but at the same
Yeah.
time, since you don't see that on the outside, you almost want to tell yourself, okay, like if I have deep emotions, then I'm not ready to be the man that like I
Mm.
want to be one day, because
Yeah.
surely like they're stoic and they can like literally like just like take anything on the chin and be like, oh, it's fine, it is what it is, and like just like keep moving forward. I think it's really easy as men to like have that mindset and be like, okay, that's what I want to be, but like there's a lot of work that's hidden from, you know, people on the outside. And so I
Yeah.
think a lot of that work is the hardest ones to like deal with, and the hardest
Yeah.
like stuff to work through, and that's the stuff that people don't see. And so I'll share something that I'll be like kind of emotional about, or something that I
Mm.
feel like is weighing me down,
Yeah.
and then like sharing it feels like a huge weight off your chest.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like I am like, all right, I shared about it, all right, let's just keep going, and we just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I like forget about it.
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't deal with it. It's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to talk about it with someone, be open with them,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, I get what you feel, like I totally understand, like I get where you're coming from, that's so valid. And you're like, yeah, it is valid, cool, all
Yeah.
right. And then you
Yeah.
you go on, and then you don't like actually do the thing that's needed to fix that
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
it's
gosh. Yeah.
like, oh wow, but I felt this like weight lift. It's like, yeah, because you did half the work. Like I need to see these things all the way through, and not just look for the moment that it starts to feel a little better. And
Yeah.
and as men, like you kind of want to like, and maybe not even just as men,
Mm-hmm.
maybe as like people, like you kind of want to deal with things in the easiest, quickest way possible,
Yeah.
and then be like, all right, cool, and
Right.
move on. And then you don't realize that it's creating like a deep like bitterness. It's
Mm.
creating like a hole in your heart that you're like, man, like I need to deal with this,
Yeah.
because there's some things that like you will just be fighting for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are things that you're like, hey, this will never get fully resolved, because
Yeah.
that's just how it is, that's
Yeah.
just how the world is, it is what it is. But you need to kind of find a way to not just put quick band-aids over it, you know,
Mm.
to just kind of tend to it, and to know that, you know, you can't like just, you know, not think about it. The parts of your heart that need extra love and attention, like you need
Yeah.
to like, you know, give it that attention and not just forget about it, and hopefully it just goes away.
Yeah. Thank you. That was awesome. Yeah. I feel like you said so many people can relate to that, not just
Mm.
men, like you
Yeah, yeah,
said.
yeah,
And yeah, I just love what you said at the end about when we have those conversations with people, and it can feel good in the moment to say things out loud like, I'm really struggling with this. And then afterwards, we can feel like, okay, thank God. But then we
yeah,
can feel empty again, like 3 days later,
yeah,
if we don't do anything about it. So I think that's a really great reminder, and
yeah,
something I have to remind
absolutely,
myself of
yeah,
too, because it's the intimidating part of like having that scary conversation, or
hmm,
taking that step to advocate for
oh yeah,
yourself, or
yeah, yeah,
whatever the case may be. And I think uncertainty can be really uncomfortable, and that's a time where it's like hardest for me, I think, to trust God, and where
hmm,
my mental health especially struggles, whether
yeah,
that's uncertainty with like a job, uncertainty with the friendship,
oh man, yeah,
uncertainty with
yeah, that's real,
like everything.
yeah,
So I remember like before you had met your girlfriend,
hmm,
like that you were also like in a similar place as me of like being single and kind of like discovering more about yourself. I know that that's something that has also had a lot of impact on people's mental health, because it can be up and down. Like I feel
yeah,
like for me personally, sometimes I'm like, I'm really comfortable by myself and
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying my life and I'm seeing that I'm building a lot of stuff right now. If anything, I'm going like full throttle with that because I'm like,
It's
I'm
awesome.
not like focusing that energy into something else, but I'm also
Absolutely.
honoring the fact that like I still want that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like, I don't want that to be a part of my life. And there's days where I'm like, it feels really discouraging and like God is not, he doesn't want that for me, or he doesn't think that
Mm.
like I'm enough to experience that as I am right now. Because I
Yeah.
think that like when you talked about how sometimes we can downplay ourselves and be like, when other people are like, oh, you're doing so great, we're like,
Mm-hmm.
but I could do this, or like I still have to do this.
Yeah,
And
for
sometimes,
sure.
yeah, I just don't feel like enough in like where I am with like my faith and like figuring out
Mm.
things still. And like when you don't get like validation, I feel like all the time in singleness you can feel like maybe I'm just not, I don't match up with what I believe I'm worthy of receiving.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I would love to hear a little bit about what that time was like for you and what it's been like now to like have that faith in God that he'll still take care of you and look out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard something clicked when you were asking the question, and it's more general like
Hmm.
advice because I think for me, like my personal experience, like I don't know, I didn't get into my first relationship until I was like 23, 24. I thought when I got into my first relationship, it was gonna be life changing. It
Right.
honestly was not. It
Hmm.
was just like, okay, this is just someone that's like more important in my life now, and like, and then we, we broke up, and
Hmm.
that happened. And so I think there's something that you said that I thought was really interesting,
Hmm.
is that like you're kind of like, God, like, do you not feel like I'm worthy of this and stuff like that? And
Yeah.
I feel like there's actually like a disconnection, or like it feels like there's like two different thoughts that live in the same house.
Yeah.
And one of them is like, am I worth having this?
Hmm.
And do I even want this right now?
Mm.
Is it something that I need right now, or is it whatever? And
Yeah.
so it's funny because we want the answer that we're worth it
Hmm.
without like necessarily being in a place where we're like, do I even need this right now?
Hey, video listeners, this is Sophie editing and just wanted to give a quick PSA because as much as I loved this conversation and ate it up, unfortunately, our camera decided to die in the middle of the episode. And, I had my crash out about it. I had my freak out moment. And now we're here. We're centered. We're at peace. And we're just going to go with it. And we have the audio, which is the most important part. So stay with me. Stay with me here. The rest of the conversation, I think you'll really enjoy. So thank you for listening. And if your day is going bad, just remember us yapping to a black screen, essentially. Just know that we all have our moments. We all have our days. And we're gonna be okay. So enjoy the rest of the episode.
Obviously when you're dating, you're not married, right? So it's like
Yeah.
your needs, you're helping meet like some of the needs that this person has, and they're helping meet some of your needs, and it's like, okay, those are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But we want the validation without like feeling like we're in a place where we need to be in a relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it gets really dangerous, because people become dependent on each other, where they want to keep having that validation, but at the same time, like, there's things that they need to meet themselves, and they're not
Yeah.
meeting those things. And like, I think, like, I don't know, I look back at when, yeah, like, just like not dating for a long time, and just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I was just living my life as as I needed to. And
Yeah.
certain things would come up, and like dating just never came up, and it just is what it is. Like, obviously I definitely wanted to during those times. There's definitely times where like I would like, there was someone that I really liked, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't like me back, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, I was really heartbroken by that. And then you
Mm-hmm.
move on,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, I just was kept trying to find the answer to the question, like, am I worth liking? Am I worth being in a relationship with? And it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't have that answer for a long time. There's just a lot more to it than what you grew up thinking. Like, oh, I just want that validation. I just want to know that I'm worth being loved.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really hard to find this answer, but you, like, honestly, we just need to find that answer without needing to like find that in someone else.
Yeah.
And it seems like you are perfectly like capable of like understanding that your life right now and your dreams and your aspirations and things, that you are chasing those things and that you are still worth being loved without needing someone to tell you that,
Yeah.
or at least a partner to tell you that.
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that is very interesting, because I have like friends who are like, yeah, like I really want to be in a relationship, I don't understand. And then like the way that like they're kind of living their life, it's like, it seems like you're doing great right now. It seems like you're doing the things that you want to do. It seems like you're chasing your dreams. You're like working your job. You're doing all those things. Like you're doing great. And it's like, I don't think that having a partner is going to like fill in like the hole that you think it will.
Yeah.
And just like your heart is gonna like be like, all right, I have all these things. Now I add like a partner to it. Now it's like fulfilled. It's like, no, like it's really easy to fall into, because receiving affection is very nice. It's like, receiving like encouragement and like receiving gifts and like all the love languages, right? Like physical touch, words of affirmation, like all of those things. Like when you get from someone, it is like, yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool. But like there's such a balance there. I feel like growing up in church, like dating culture was really weird, and like we didn't fully understand it. And now like I see like grown adults who are still very much tied to like our church dating culture. And it's like, yeah, like I've seen people kind of like break out of that mold and do really well. I've seen people break out of that mold and like not do well. And it's like, it's literally not dependent on if you follow the rules or not. It's literally just who you are as a person. And I think there's so many things that we think about as like an equation of like this plus this, it always equals this. It's like, it's not like that, And so intentionality is everything. Like, why are you in this relationship? Are you in a relationship because you potentially wanted to go towards marriage? Is it because, like whatever, like you really need to know what those intentions are within yourself, to be able to tell, like, is this going to be good for me? Or is it just going to lead me down a road of like hurt, heartbreak, like unmet expectations and stuff like that? Does it always, like, if you do everything quote unquote correctly, does it mean everything's going to work out? No.
That's so true. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had friends who have gotten into relationships, and you can tell that they were kind of, like, yeah, this person like was really cool for a moment, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right partner for them and stuff like that. I don't have it all figured out. But like I guess that's just something that I have learned, at least.
That's great. Yeah. It's not gonna be perfect, and we can't control everything that happens when we choose to like open our heart up to someone. But that, even if it doesn't work out, like we still are able to learn about ourselves, maybe learn more about God, learn more about what we want, what we don't want, and still like live a life that is full. And like something that you said, in like the past, I would say like I would get really like in my head if something didn't work out. So I was like, this was the one opportunity. And
like no other opportunity will ever come again.
Nothing will ever come again. And that goes for like both, because I feel like on here I've talked a lot about like when I didn't feel like I was enough for somebody else. But there's been times where I like didn't think that something would align, or I didn't feel the same way as somebody. And I still felt heartbroken as if I was the one who got rejected, because I was like, like friendships change, and it's like it can be sad in that moment. But I've seen those people move on and live their life, and I have moved on as well. And so I think that's a really beautiful thing that reminds me that I still have a lot left in my life to experience. And you're right, like I never know what's going to happen. And I've kind of just been continuing to talk about it out loud to people and be like, this is how I feel and this is what I'm going through, but I know I'm going to be okay, which has been really helpful. And there's been so many ways that I've been able to still experience feeling loved by people and pouring that love into other people. I'm glad I've gotten to a place where I'm like, I'm excited for when this happens, whenever it does. I
have friends who like I'm like wow, like they're amazing, and they're like, I'm like, man, like why aren't you in a relationship? But then I realized that like that kind of thought process is like it sounds like it comes from a place of like, surely you're good enough for this, and
Yeah.
it does have to tie into your worth, but that's not true. I think it's more so like people who have the desire for it, like not everyone has a desire for it,
Yeah.
and like the people who do have a desire for it, it's like, I know that you are worth that for
Yeah.
sure, and you would be like a blessing to someone to be their partner and stuff like that. And so like there's people I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, when, you know, God, what's going on, like like this person like is amazing, they're awesome, they're
Yeah.
super worth this, and it is their desire. But it has nothing to do with if they're worth it or not.
It's like one day I'm gonna look back literally at this podcast and remember when we were talking about
Yeah,
this and be
yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
I didn't know it was coming. Yeah. Yeah.
It does happen tomorrow. Imagine. Okay.
I know. I'm like, I get a text. I'm like, Josh.
This podcast comes out like in 2 weeks, and you're just like, you're already
I'm
like,
like,
oh,
I'm
I'm already
married.
in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm like,
That's
"Yeah,
insane.
guys, I don't know what happened." Lastly, I started this tradition
Yes.
on And So For. At the end of the episode, me and the other guests will both share something with each other that we feel like, based on everything we've talked about today, that we feel like the other person, so like what I feel you need to hear more, that I may think that you don't hear as much as you need to, and then vice versa. But I think based off everything we've talked about, I would say that there is a lot that I think is very like unknown. I think in like the future of like what exactly your life is going to look like creatively and like in all the other aspects, but I think that what you're building right now is really special, and I think people connect to you a lot because of your authenticity, which you don't always find, I feel like, when it comes to trying to be a part of creative spaces where it's easy to be like, I just want to move up and get big and
Sure,
I will
yeah,
like
yeah.
do whatever I need to do. But
Yeah.
I feel like you built authenticity in the way you speak about your life and the friendships that you have, which is really cool. And I appreciate your vulnerability. And I feel like when I was thinking of people to have the podcast with next, I was really excited to do it with you because I feel like
thanks.
you're a person that I've always felt like very chill with, and I'm just very
Thanks.
grateful for you like making the time to be here. You really are really talented. God is going to continue to bless that, even if you can't fully see all the results of that. But I think with the little things like you said, like your friends showing up for you, and like even the answered prayers you're living in right now, like I think that's just evidence that God cares about you and you're seen, and you're going to continue to do a lot of great things. So I'm excited for you.
Wow, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I feel like the thing I thought of you is like, more people see what you do than the amount of notifications you get. And I feel like that is something that is I want you to hear, because again, we talked about it in part 1, or maybe we talked about it even off podcast. I actually don't remember. We've been talking all day. But like the podcast and everything that you do, like it is special.
Thank you.
And I hope you know that. Like, in even, I know it's easy to be like, oh, not many people saw this episode, or not many people follow the page or whatever. But like, more people know that you're doing it than you think. There are people that know that you are doing this and know it's special, but have never watched a podcast. And I think that is, sure, like it, you know, they'd be nice if they watch the podcast or like follow the page. But I hope you know that like it is super seen, and like people like know that you're doing something special with your time and your energy and with your heart, especially because, again, like you said, like there's a lot of podcasts where you just pour your heart out and you're like, okay, I'm exhausted. Like all that time and effort and energy like is all going to something that is truly special. And like I want you to like I want you to know that. Like I want you to know that like it's not only as special to like a certain amount of people, but like to way more than that. And there are people that appreciate it even if they don't watch an episode, or even if they don't follow the page. Like it is like what you do and what you're choosing to do with your time and your energy is truly special.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I like this tradition.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I started actually with the first episode, but in season 3. So the past 2 seasons I didn't do it. Yeah, I really appreciate what you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, thank you. I needed to hear that, and I feel like that is something I definitely struggle with. So I appreciate that, and I receive that. And part of why I wanted to do that is because I just feel like you said it can be easy to pour our hearts out and then after just like leave. And I know we talk about a lot of heavy stuff and complex stuff. So it's nice to like end with something that's like, okay, I feel
absolutely.
hopeful. I feel like I am still like enough even if life is not perfect and it's not all figured out.
Yeah.
But we've reached the end
Yes.
of our two-parter.
I know.
The
yeah.
first two-parter.
We've literally just been sitting here talking for like hours.
It's been Yap
Yeah.
City.
Yeah.
It's been Yap City in here, but I'm incredibly grateful for real. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate all
Thank
the time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for feeling like I would add something to this podcast.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you really did. And I think a lot of people are really going to be excited to see you on here. Maybe some people that didn't expect to see you on a podcast again after all these years.
Hopefully I can bring some new people in.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of things you said will really resonate with people who are in similar places or also figuring things out. So thank you again, Josh.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I will have all of Josh's socials linked again in the description if you would like to continue to support him and his art or just be friends. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you know.
Thank you.
And I will also have Anne Soph's socials in the description too if you want to follow along with the podcast as I continue to post. I will have new episodes every other Friday, so there'll be another new friend after this, hopefully. And make sure, if you really like this podcast, to follow on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and comment if there's something that stuck out to you or something else that you also had kind of like an experience with or opinion on that you wanted to expand on more. I love reading comments like that, so definitely feel free. Yeah, was there anything else you want to say before we end?
No. Thank you for having me. Seriously, I'm so excited that I got to record not one but two podcasts.
Two!
Yeah, literally, it's crazy. Double feature.
You like saved the day. Love you guys. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves.
Yes.
And I will see you in the next podcast episode.
Bye.
Bye.